The summer air hung thick and sweet, heavy with the scent of cut grass and cheap beer. Lucy and I huddled behind the garage, sharing stolen cans, the metallic taste a secret thrill on our tongues. Her laughter, light and free, was the only sound that mattered in that moment, a perfect counterpoint to the distant thrum of the party. Then the music died. A sudden, jarring silence fell over the backyard, pulling us from our private world. We heard a collective gasp, then a choked cry, followed by a sickening wet sound that made my stomach clench. Lucy's father, Larry Sitkins, stood in the center of the lawn, his eyes wide and unseeing. He was forcing a beer can, crushed and jagged, down his own throat. The metal tore at his flesh, a grotesque, deliberate act that unfolded in horrifying slow motion. Chaos erupted. Screams tore through the quiet evening as adults rushed forward, then recoiled in terror. Hands grabbed at children, pulling them away from the unfolding nightmare. The wail of approaching sirens, distant at first, grew louder, cutting through the panicked shouts. My father found me, his face a mask of grim resolve I'd never seen before. He didn't speak, just gripped my arm and my sister's, steering us wordlessly towards the car. The party, once a beacon of summer joy, was now a scene of unspeakable horror, a memory that would forever stain the season. The next day at school, the whispers were everywhere, a chilling current beneath the forced normalcy. Larry Sitkins was dead. The rumors were wild, each more disturbing than the last, painting a picture of a man possessed. They spoke of his eyes, empty and devoid of all life, even as he committed his final bizarre act. The vacant expression, the one described in the hushed tones about Larry Sitkins, became a recurring nightmare. Mr. Straub, our history teacher, was found days later, his neck crushed by the bleachers in the school gym. His face, frozen in death, held that same chilling, emotionless stare. A cold dread settled in my gut. Larry Sitkins hadn't just been drunk or mad, there was something else, something deeper and far more terrifying. That empty gaze, a window into nothingness, was the signature of a spreading horror. The deaths continued, a macabre parade across our quiet town. The barista from the coffee shop, found drowned in her own espresso machine, her eyes wide and blank. The town doctor discovered in his office, having meticulously dismembered himself with surgical precision, his face a mask of serene emptiness. Each victim, a new testament to the same brutal, self-inflicted end, marked by that same chilling, vacant stare. Panic gripped the town. Schools closed indefinitely, a desperate attempt to contain the unseen threat. Parents gathered at the town hall, their faces etched with fear and confusion, demanding answers that no one could provide. The world felt like it was unraveling, piece by agonizing piece. I couldn't stay in the house, couldn't bear the suffocating fear that clung to every surface. I walked, aimlessly at first, then with purpose, deeper into the woods behind our neighborhood. The trees offered a false sense of peace, their shadows a temporary reprieve from the town's growing madness. I needed to understand, to find some logic in the escalating horror. My feet carried me to the old train tracks, a rusted ribbon cutting through the dense foliage. There, nestled beneath a crumbling stone bridge, was the tunnel. Its mouth was a gaping maw, bristling with dark ivy, a place I'd always avoided, drawn to it now by an inexplicable morbid curiosity. As I hesitated at the entrance, a train roared past on the tracks above, its brief, blinding light piercing the tunnel's darkness. For a fleeting second, I saw something inside, something that made my breath catch in my throat. A shape, indistinct, but undeniably wrong. Driven by a morbid compulsion, I stepped into the cold, damp air of the tunnel. The light from the entrance faded quickly, swallowed by the oppressive gloom. My eyes adjusted, and then I saw him. A man, or what was left of one, draped across the tracks. He was legless, his lower half a mangled ruin, his body twisted into an impossible, nightmarish pose. Dried blood, black and crusted, stained the gravel beneath him. His skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched taut over bone. He had been there for a long time, a forgotten horror in the heart of the earth, his vacant eyes staring into the perpetual darkness. I stumbled backward, the stench of decay and something else, something metallic and foul filling my lungs. I scrambled out of the tunnel, gasping for air, my mind screaming for escape. But as I reached the sunlight, a sound stopped me cold. A wet, dragging shuffle, a sound of impossible locomotion, echoed from the tunnel's depths. My blood ran cold. I turned, my eyes fixed on the dark opening. And then, he emerged. The legless man, his torso heaving, dragging himself forward with his arms, his ruined body scraping against the gravel. His face, illuminated by the weak afternoon light, was a mirror of every victim I had heard about. His eyes were wide, unblinking, and utterly empty. A gape of a mouth, stretched in a silent scream, or perhaps a silent laugh. He was coming for me. A primal scream tore from my throat. I turned and ran, blindly, desperately, through the tangled undergrowth of the woods. Branches whipped at my face, roots tripped my feet, but I didn't stop. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs gave out beneath me, collapsing in a heap. I crawled into the hollow of a fallen tree, burying myself in the decaying leaves, praying for invisibility. The sun was setting when I finally dragged myself home, my body aching, my mind a jumble of terror and disbelief. The front door was ajar, and a low, guttural sound emanated from inside. I pushed it open, my heart pounding against my ribs. My father was on the floor, thrashing violently, his eyes wide and unfocused. My mother and grandmother struggled to hold him down, their faces streaked with tears and fear. He was muttering, incoherent words bubbling from his lips, his body convulsing. A gun lay on the floor just out of reach, and a kitchen knife glinted ominously near my father's hand. A desperate struggle ensued, a blur of flailing limbs and desperate cries. The gun discharged, the deafening blast echoing through the house, shattering a window. My mother cried out, clutching her arm, blood blooming on her sleeve. My father's eyes, as he looked at me, were the same as Larry Sitkin's, as Mr. Straub, as the legless man in the tunnel, vacant, empty, devoid of all recognition, all love. It was him, but it wasn't. The sickness had taken him. Then the sirens. Not the familiar wail of an ambulance, but a different, more ominous sound. Black vans pulled up to the house, and figures in biohazard suits emerged, moving with chilling efficiency. They took my father, his struggles weakening, his eyes still fixed on nothing. As they led him away, one of them turned to my mother, his voice muffled by the suit. "Has he been hunting recently? Any trips to the woods?" The question hung in the air, a cold, sharp blade. Hunting. The word triggered a memory, a suppressed horror from 3 months prior. My father and I, deep in the woods, on what was supposed to be a routine hunting trip. He had shot a deer, a clean shot, or so we thought. But when we approached, the deer, a magnificent buck, did something impossible. It stood up, not on 4 legs, but on 2, its front hooves dangling like withered arms. It walked towards us, slowly, deliberately, its eyes fixed on us with an unnatural intelligence. My father fired again, and again, the shots tearing through its hide. One bullet struck its head, blowing a hole through its skull, but still, it advanced. It took several more shots, a barrage of lead, before it finally collapsed, its body twitching, its eyes still open, still watching. My father had dismissed it, his face pale, his voice strained. "Sick deer," he'd mumbled, "just a sick deer." He'd compared it to an elderly relative, frail and confused, a desperate attempt to rationalize the impossible. But I knew even then that it was no ordinary sickness. Now the pieces clicked into place, a horrifying mosaic of dread. the sick deer from that hunting trip, the vacant eyes, the unnatural movements. It wasn't just a sickness, it was the source. It was the beginning. I had to know. I had to see. I crept out to the shed, the small, musty building where my father kept his hunting gear, his trophies. There was an old chest freezer in the corner, usually filled with venison from his kills. He'd brought back 2 deer from that fateful trip. I opened the freezer, my hands trembling. Inside, there was only one, a single frozen deer, its body stiff and cold. Where was the other, the sick one? A low rumble started from within the freezer, a deep vibration that made the metal hum. Then a violent rattling, as if something was trying to break free. The lid, heavy and rusted, began to lift, slowly, inexorably. And then it was there. The sick deer, partially frozen, its fur matted with ice and blood. Its eyes, wide and black, were not vacant, but filled with an ancient, hateful malice. It moved, its head twitching, its body straining against the confines of the freezer, its ruined legs twitching. A hand clamped down on my shoulder. I spun around, my heart leaping into my throat. My father stood behind me, his eyes wide and empty, that same chilling, emotionless gaze. He reached for me, his arms wrapping around me in a cold, unfeeling embrace. Just as his lips brushed my ear, a deafening explosion ripped through the shed, shattering the air, tearing through the deer, through everything. I woke in a hospital bed, the sterile scent of antiseptic filling my nostrils. My father was in the next room, restrained, still mumbling about the sickness. "It's in us," he whispered over and over. "It's in us all." He was right. I could feel it, a cold tendril uncoiling in the deepest parts of my mind. A compulsion, a quiet whisper that urged me to write, to document, to share this truth before it consumed me entirely. This story, this confession, is the first symptom. The sickness, ancient and insidious, born from the dark heart of the woods, is getting closer. I can feel its tendrils tightening, its cold embrace drawing me deeper into the void. Soon, I will join the others. Soon, I will be empty.